Hello, and welcome back to the studio this evening. I've an idea for a video that I wanted to make, and I have some photos that I wanted to share with you, but unfortunately they're not related to each other, so you'll just have to make do. Have to exercise both halves of your brain, I guess. There was a place that I wanted to go take a picture at a couple weeks ago now, actually probably about a month ago now, and it was going to be a picture I wanted to take at sunrise of a... This is also, by the way, this is where the photography doesn't match the message of the video, so do with that as you please. The picture that I wanted to go for was a picture of a storage unit where the sign, the neon-ish sign, had burnt out partly. And so it said storage in big neon red letters, and some of the letters were burnt out, so all it said was Stora. And I thought that looked kind of fun. So I went down there early one morning and found an angle to take it from, kind of walked around a bit looking for what might line up with the stuff that I wanted to show in the picture. There was a semi-truck down the road, which I thought looked kind of neat. And then there was, the sign, and I didn't want it to interfere with the tree on the other side and all that stuff. So anyway, trying to find an angle. I wanted it to be so that when the sun rose, that the light would cast from the sunrise onto the building, and then the light would be lighting up in the sky on the other side, kind of the yellowy, pinky hues or whatever. And it ended up being overcast that morning, at least in that part of the sky. There were the other side of the sky was pretty open, but the clouds didn't light up on this part. It was just too dark over there, too overcast. And the neon sign went out before the light really made it far enough in to light up the sky above the building. So I ended up getting a really moody picture, just really dark, and you get the sign over top. And I really actually like the way that it turned out. I'm not disappointed by what I got. I think it looks really, really cool. These kind of pictures feel like they draw me in a way. Just kind of the streetscape view of seeing the building, seeing what's around it, seeing what's going on. There's lots of detail in there. And I think, I really like the detail of that semi-truck being off to the back, the lights that you can see further into the storage unit. I took the picture, was waiting around a while to take more, and then the light went out over top of the building. So on the sign. So I left that. I abandoned my post, took down my tripod, and just slung the camera around my neck and went looking for some other stuff. And I was walking around, and then I realized that some guy had come out of the building that I was just taking a picture of, and was sitting on a little bench seat. And I realized at that moment that, I think that somebody lives here. I think this is probably somebody who lives on the property of the storage unit. And I've basically just rolled up and sat in front of their house, taking pictures of their house, which is a little bit creepy feeling. And so I feel bad about that, but not bad enough to delete the picture. So what is this mythical topic that I wanted to speak to you of? Well, so I think sometimes I've heard folks who are photographers or who are getting into photography talking about, I've heard them say things like, they'll get to a location where there's something like iconic, I guess would be a good way to say it. Whether that's being at, here in Kansas City, perhaps, Union Station would be a good example of this, or going to some national park and there's a scenic overlook and you see everything and it's beautiful and it's the spot where everybody gathers, right? Or showing up to a beautiful sunrise and realizing that you're there with 12 other photographers or something like that. And I've heard photographers say things like, this is the shot that everybody takes, and I'm not going to do that because I want to do something unique, or like this feels super obvious. So I'm going to try and search for other compositions or different angles or whatever. And I think that that's fine. But I know that for me, if I've gone somewhere, like I went up by the World War One memorial downtown, and I look over the wall, the barrier wall there. You walk up to it, and you look down the hill, and there's Union Station, and it's the angle that everybody has shot. And it's a really beautiful angle. You get to see the skyline, you get to see the iconic buildings, you get to see the Western Auto sign, all the things, and it looks really cool. It's a good angle for that picture. And yes, everybody has shot it. And my encouragement, I suppose, would be that you can go ahead and take that picture, that obvious picture where you're at the scenic overlook and there's the waterfall. And you know what? You can take that picture. It's okay. And I think this advice may apply more to people who shoot digital as opposed to film, because if you're doing film, then maybe you want to be a little bit more particular because you only have so many frames to take. But I've wished that I've had a certain angle when I was at, a place, and I've looked around and I see, that looks like that's a super obvious angle there. That's a super obvious thing to take a picture of. An obvious way to shoot it. And then I spend a little while, I look around to figure something else out, and I take a picture that, is good. Then I get home, and I'm looking through the pictures, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I had a picture of that one angle. And then I go back and I look through, and I didn't have it, and then I'm sad. I wished I had it. And so while it may not be the most original angle, I think it is worthwhile to take what might be considered an obvious picture, the obvious shot. I think one of the other things it does for me anyway is allows me to forget about it. So if I'm at a place, I'm taking pictures, and I see something that's like, that would be really cool. If I don't take that picture, then as I'm wandering around trying to get other compositions and looking for other things, then that one is still lingering in the back of my mind as something that I could still take a picture of, something that is still a potential photograph. And taking the obvious shot can free me up to be a little bit more creative, I guess. And that's what I wanted to say, is that just because you hear people talk about all the time, it's like, oh, that's not my kind of shot. That's not my thing that I want to do. That's not, everybody else has done that. It's not unique. What am I contributing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes it can be good to take a picture because I want to have taken a picture of that. I want to be able to look through my catalog and see that picture. I think that would look cool. And just because it's not unique doesn't mean it's not worth taking. Just because everybody else has taken that photo doesn't mean that you wouldn't like to have it. Like, other people have taken that photo, great. But you can't see their photo. You can only see yours. Obviously, if it's a landmark or something, there's probably pictures online of it. But having taken a picture of it yourself, I think, is valuable. It's fun to see a picture that you've taken of something iconic. Even if it's from the same angle as everybody else. It's like, yeah, but that's mine. I took that one. I know I did. I edited it the way I like to edit pictures, or, whatever the case may be. And so you've got a picture that's yours. I think one other thing about taking obvious pictures that I wanted to mention is that sometimes what's obvious to you, or the obvious composition, is not necessarily obvious to everybody. So you may roll up to a place and immediately see something, and you're like, that's what I should take. That's the picture. And then you second guess, well, that was too easy. That was obviously how you would shoot this thing. Maybe I need to get more creative. And in a lot of cases, maybe that's true. Maybe just about anybody who showed up would think to take a picture at that angle, to take a picture with the light streaming in that way, or whatever it is, whatever the thing is that makes it feel obvious. But then again, you're you, right? And so not everybody's going to see that. Not everybody's going to roll up and say, yeah, that's a great picture. I should take that picture. And maybe you do capture something unique because you thought it was obvious, but it wasn't obvious to anybody else. And so now you've got a picture that actually is unique, that actually does feel like it contributes to capturing a thing in a more unique way. And so just to avoid taking what feels to be obvious, it can push you in a good direction. And I would say, take the obvious picture, right? But don't stop. Continue searching for something. Push yourself to find other angles and perspectives. I guess my main point is just don't feel like you have to not take it, right? It may feel obvious, but don't feel pressured to dismiss that. Go ahead and do it. It may end up being one of your favorite pictures that you've taken in that environment. It may not, I guess. So then the other place that I went actually this morning to go take some pictures at was over by, it was close to downtown. There was a closed down bridge and some construction stuff underneath it, and it just made for some interesting photos with the bridge closed, the road empty, and yeah, I was walking around trying to not be, obtrusive. Being a Saturday, it turned out there weren't a lot of people down there, so that was nice just to be able to walk around. I looked for, no trespassing signs and keep out and nobody should be here sort of messaging. And the place where I was, I didn't see any of that. It was a, publicly accessible road that led down there. And so I went around and took some pictures and got some cool stuff. I was walking across the bridge and I saw some boats going underneath the bridge. Looked like maybe there was a trainer or something training some people in competitive rowing. Not really sure exactly, but that's kind of what it looked like. And then the bridge over top, I took a couple pictures up there. There was a deteriorated barricade in front, some concrete barriers behind it. And then you could kind of see some buildings from the skyline of Kansas City behind it, which I thought looked pretty cool. And I tried to get down low as well to minimize as much of the buildings as possible, so all you could see was basically the sky behind the barricade, which I think looked all right. But, who knows? So anyway, that's about all I got. Thanks for joining me in the studio this evening, and it's been a blast. This video is a little bit later than I wanted it to be because I didn't make it earlier.